When the cartels fall, the silence after the fall. Imagine this. Overnight, the drug cartels are gone. No more Sinaloa. No Jalisco New Generation. No Tren de Aragua. The kingpins are arrested. The smuggling routes shut down. The world cheers. And for a moment, the streets grow quiet. But silence can be dangerous, because when an empire built on fear collapses, the chaos that follows can be worse than what came before. This is the story of what happens after the cartels fall. What happens when a nation's underworld suddenly loses its crown, when billions of dollars in illegal power suddenly vanish, leaving a vacuum that no one is ready to fill. Act 1, the myth of a clean victory. Politicians promise it all the time. They say, we'll eliminate the cartels, we'll win the war on drugs. But history has taught us that victory in organized crime is never clean. When you cut off the head of a criminal empire, it doesn't die. It multiplies. Think of it like smashing a spider's web. The strands don't disappear. They just reattach somewhere else. After El Chapo was captured in 2016, many thought the nightmare was over. But within months, Mexico saw more killings, more kidnappings, and more territorial wars than before. His empire fractured into warring factions, and every splinter fought for control. That's the paradox of the cartel wars. You can kill the leader, but you can't kill the business. Act 2. The market never dies, because drugs aren't just a crime. They're a global market, one worth over $300 billion a year. As long as the demand remains, supply will find a way. When one syndicate falls, another rises. Just like Colombia, after Pablo Escobar, when the Medellin cartel collapsed, the cocaine trade didn't end. It diversified. Hundreds of smaller, hungrier traffickers replaced one man's empire. A headless hydra doesn't die, it multiplies. Act 3, Mexico in fragments. Now picture Mexico after the fall. No single cartel left in power. Dozens of smaller groups emerge, each claiming their piece of territory. Michoacán, Guerrero, Sinaloa, Tamaulipas. Every town becomes a battlefield. Every roadblock a tax point. The big cartels had order, brutal, corrupt order, but order nonetheless. When they fall, that fragile stability collapses. Local defense forces rise. Militias form under the banner of protection. Some are genuine, others are new cartels in disguise. They extort, recruit, and terrorize anyone in their path. It's feudalism reborn. Villages ruled by whoever has the most guns, and civilians pay the price. The state tries to fill the void, but its reach is thin. Police are underpaid. Soldiers are stretched, and corruption seeps through every layer. When the government can't control the streets, someone else always will. Act 4, Venezuela, when the state becomes the cartel. Now shift your focus south to Venezuela. There, the story takes an even darker turn, because in Venezuela, the lines between the state and organized crime have already blurred. The military controls border routes. Politicians fund themselves through smuggling. Gangs enforce local order, where the government no longer functions. So what happens if you eliminate the cartels there? The answer isn't peace. It's power fragmentation. Paramilitaries rise. Corrupt army units seize mines and ports. Foreign powers move in. China, Russia, Iran, all hungry for oil, gold, and influence. The cartels were never the disease. They were the symptom of a deeper infection. A state so hollow that crime became its bloodstream. When that kind of system collapses, power doesn't vanish. It flows to whoever can feed people or threaten them. And in Venezuela's vacuum, violence becomes currency. ACT 5, the human cost. Across Latin America, we've seen this pattern again and again. When a dominant criminal group disappears, others fight for the scraps. Civilians become collateral damage. Displacement skyrockets. Families flee their homes overnight. Children grow up surrounded by guns and despair. In Colombia, when the FARC laid down its arms, new gangs rushed in to claim the coca fields they left behind. In some regions, murders actually rose. Communities that hoped for peace instead got chaos. And that's the cruel irony. Destroy the cartels, and the violence can grow worse before it gets better. Because the roots of the problem were never just drugs. They were poverty, corruption, and weak institutions. Without those being fixed, the vacuum fills itself with something even more dangerous. Act 6, the global shockwave. Meanwhile, the shockwaves spread beyond borders. When trafficking routes close in Mexico, new ones open in Central America. When Venezuela's ports shut down, shipments reroute through the Caribbean. The United States faces new migration surges. Europe sees new smuggling corridors through Africa. The fall of one empire simply rearranges the map. The drug trade doesn't end, it adapts. And so, when people ask, why can't we just eliminate the cartels? The answer is simple, because we haven't replaced what keeps them alive. The jobs, the power, the protection, the corrupt money that greases the system. You can bomb a compound, you can arrest 1,000 soldiers, but if a young man in Sinaloa still earns more selling drugs than working legally, the system rebuilds itself overnight. Act 7, how to fill the void. So what can be done? Real change begins where the violence starts, in the communities left behind. Replace illicit income with real opportunity. Make it more profitable to live honestly than to die violently. Fight corruption, not just crime. Because when the local police chief works for the cartel, the badge loses meaning. Rebuild trust between people and the state. Give families a reason to believe the law protects them. Only then can a country start to heal. Eliminate the cartels and you win a battle. Build a nation and you win a generation. Act 8, the final test. But here's the haunting truth. If the world woke up tomorrow and every cartel was gone, we'd still be left with the hunger that created them. The poverty, the greed, the demand. Those are the real engines of the drug wars. So what happens when the cartels fall? The answer isn't peace. It's a test of whether governments can fill the void before chaos does. A test of whether people can build something stronger than fear. And maybe the hardest question of all, if the cartels disappear tomorrow, who rises next? Because in the shadows of every fallen empire, someone is always waiting to take their place. Reflection and call to action. If this opened your eyes, share it, discuss it, because the war on drugs isn't a story about criminals. It's a story about us, about what we demand, what we ignore, and what we choose to build once the smoke clears.